Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Just Chattin With Justin. Today's guest is Julia Penrad. She grew up in 3 different countries, the Philippines, Singapore, and America. We're going to be asking her about the differences in culture and how it affected her today and what it was like trying to assimilate into 3 different societies and cultures. Hey everyone, this is Justin, and I'm here with Julia Penrad.
Hello.
We are going to be talking about her childhood today. So, Julia, you grew up in 3 countries, right?
Yes.
What were they?
I grew up in the Philippines and then I moved to Singapore, which is where I spent most of my childhood before I moved to America.
Okay. So, uh, what were the difference in cultures there?
Okay, so I moved from the Philippines to Singapore when I was 4 years old. So I'd say that I can't really remember much of my childhood in the Philippines, but I did visit a lot when I lived in Singapore. And I think that the culture in the Philippines it was a lot more open and free. I think kids were always still running around outside. You'd play a lot of games with people in your neighborhood, and it felt a lot more like a close knit village. As compared to Singapore, it was a really big city, and in the Philippines, you would know all of your neighbors and everyone in your town, but in Singapore, you would just know the people from your school, but I still had a really fun time there.
Okay. Was it hard to like assimilate into each cultures that you've experienced?
I think there was some level of difficulty. Philippines to Singapore wasn't too terribly difficult since I was so young, but I did have to learn English and Chinese at the same time because you're required to speak a second language there. That's either Chinese, Malay, or Tamil. And I chose Chinese, but that didn't work out very well for me. So that was the only difficult part, I'd say. Assimilating from Singapore to America was much more difficult. I'd say there definitely was a culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
I the lifestyle here is completely different from what it was in Singapore.
How different was it? Like, what were the main differences you saw?
Mm, well, one of the positives was that I had a lot of family here. So seeing all of my family was really nice and that was good, but I'd say the biggest difference was the transportation because it would be really easy for me to hang out with my friends. We could all just take the bus or the subway, or we could just walk, honestly. And it was really safe, and it was normal for kids to start at a young age, like 9 or 10, for them to go out alone and be able to hang out with their friends. And I wasn't able to do that here. It was really crazy to me that you had to drive everywhere. I also never thought that I'd ever have to drive a car, ever. So learning
Mm-hmm.
that my cousins who were around the same age as me were driving was a little,
Mm-hmm.
that was definitely a shocker, but yeah.
Okay. Did you have a favorite place that you lived in? Like, did you like Singapore more?
Mm, I'd say I guess I prefer Singapore the most just because of the safety and how convenient all the transportation is. It's nice to be able to go out at night and hang out with your friends and not really worry too much about the safety. But I do like I guess I can say America's grown on me
Mm-hmm.
mostly because of the people. I like having my family around. That was something I didn't really have in Singapore. And it's mostly the people that I really enjoy here, though I haven't been around America a lot. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that I prefer Singapore as a whole country compared to America.
Which was the most influential in who you are today?
Definitely America. I'd say that I guess Singapore shaped who I was as a child, but I can say that I definitely wouldn't be who I am if I hadn't moved here.
Hmm.
I'd say that in the beginning, I was a little upset because I did obviously have to leave all of my friends
Mm-hmm.
that I'd known for my whole childhood back in Singapore, but I learned a lot of things in America that I know 100% I would have never learned to the depth that I've learned it if I had stayed in Singapore.
Hmm. What are some different culture aspects that are different in each country?
Oh, so in Singapore, as a country, people celebrate different cultural holidays, and they aren't just limited to like that specific culture. For example, Chinese New Year is one of the biggest holidays in the entire country. You get like a week off of school, and you see parades everywhere, these things called dragon dances, and that's really fun. And then we also celebrate Deepavali and Hari Raya, which is two separate cultures again, but the entire country celebrates that as a whole.
Sick. um, wow, America never really does that. Like celebrating different cultures as a whole country. Girl, we only celebrate the main holidays as a whole country, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Those are the main ones.
It's definitely a lot of fun. Do you have any similar experiences?
I grew up also in the Philippines, actually. That you said you were born there. But yeah, I grew up there for like 4 years. But it was a long time ago, so I barely remember it. Yeah, there was a huge difference in culture when I went there. I remember when I got there, it was so weird. They made me sit at the front of the class because I didn't know how to speak Tagalog. Yeah, it was very awkward. I was very much sitting next to the teacher the whole time. They would try and translate the assignments to me, but then they would laugh because they couldn't translate it.
Oh my god.
So I was very much there like that. And then when I came back here, after being in the Philippines for 4 years, there was another culture shock to where I spoke broken English. Like I very much had a huge accent. I talk with a Filipino accent.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah, and grammar was a huge thing. But I guess since I was born here and grew up a little bit, it was easier to go back to speaking English as a main language.
I definitely had an accent, but the minute I got off the plane, I decided I was going to fake it until it was natural, and that's exactly what I did.
Fake it till you make it. Yeah.
That is exactly what I did.
Now it's time for our advice segment. Julia, do you have any advice to people going through similar things, from moving to different countries, culture shocks, anything like that?
Yeah, I'd say to just, I guess, keep a really open mind. I know it sounds difficult at first, and there'll definitely be many things that you aren't used to and things that you wish were the same from where you were moving from. But just welcome the new experiences, and you don't have to lose what you've learned or the people that you knew in your old town. You can keep contact with your friends and just try to be a little, I guess, outgoing, go to new places, find some cool spots, or talk to new people, and yeah, everything will be fine.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, I think that's it. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's it for this episode of Just Chatting with Justin. We learned a lot about the difference in cultures, how they affect you growing up, and a lot about the celebrations in Singapore. Thanks for listening, and bye!